You could say that this whole thing, all these teachings and practices are about dying. They're about dying, because what you just said, I experience limitations, but I experience that my awareness is not limited. Okay, good. So can you let go and let that be? Let that experience be there? That's dying. That's dying. Because what people want more than anything, although they don't know it, is not to be stuck in this personality. It's a drag. Being stuck in this personality, being stuck in this limited form in which there is a compulsive, never-ending chain of thoughts that keep going through your mind, never-ending rising of emotions, some pleasant, some unpleasant, never-ending arising of physical sensations. And because of your conditioning as a personality, you're experiencing you're experiencing a negative experience. You're experiencing a very threatening life. You have to. Because if it is true that you are this physical body, and if it is true that you are separate from the world and separate from other people, that explains the paranoia. That explains the craziness that we see every day in the news. And that craziness is not crazy when you consider the fact that the reason people behave the way they do is because they are experiencing that they are a limited personality in a physical body in a very threatening environment. It is a threatening environment. Anything can happen. You could be killed anytime. You could be killed anytime. And if you watch the news, it's not. It presents you with more and more threat, what there is to be afraid of. You watch the news, and that what gets presented is what there is to be afraid of. So it's understandable that the personality breaks down. It's understandable that the personality gets depressed and anxious. It's understandable that the personality behaves poorly and acts out, because it's trying to survive all the time. And in order to survive, it has to keep looking to see what's going to hurt me, what can hurt me. Yeah? And that can become such an overwhelming experience, that people are afraid to leave the house. It's true, people are afraid to leave the house. People are afraid to leave their limited experience of existence. Some people are afraid to leave the house. Some people are not afraid to leave the house, but they're afraid to leave their familiar, limited environment. The job, to work and back, my house, my family, my car, right? So I operate within a limited sphere of movement, right? So I don't take too big a risk, right? Take too big a risk. And this is the life. And no wonder people have nightmares when they go to sleep at night. Because their waking state is a nightmare. So they go to sleep at night, what do they expect to happen? One of the teachers that I was studying recently said, before you go to bed, you should pay attention to what you're feeling and thinking before you go to bed. And if before you go to bed you're having fearful thoughts or negative thoughts or troubling thoughts or thoughts about things that happened in the past, that you did the wrong thing and you're guilty about it or whatever, or fearful thoughts about what's going to happen in the future, if this is happening before you go to bed, take some time and generate some positive, loving, caring, kind thoughts. Allow yourself to generate some useful thought. Think about the truth. If you're a student of these teachings and practices, take some time before you go to sleep to think about the truth and then go to sleep. So that during sleep, the unconscious mind has material that's positive and not negative. Otherwise, you're going to have nightmares. What I've come to do, I always sit for a while, I always meditate for a while before I go to sleep. And what I do is I have the Heart Sutra sitting next to my meditation cushion, right? And I pick it up and I just read it through one time. The Heart Sutra is the heart of the teaching. The Heart Sutra is the heart of the teaching. So if you read that before you go to sleep, right, you're creating a mental atmosphere and a mental state, right, that is caring and loving and unconditional love, free, unlimited, and then go to sleep, right? And I really highly recommend that you study the Heart Sutra. The Heart Sutra is the whole teaching. It's the whole teaching. Whole teaching. In the beginning of the Heart Sutra, the teacher tells the student, you know, upon realizing that there is no self. This is the teaching. Upon realizing that there is no self, there is a transcendental wisdom that is experienced. That's called the truth. Transcendental wisdom is the truth. What is transcendental wisdom? Transcendental wisdom means that you're experiencing that you are awareness itself. And this awareness, while it may appear to have form, it has no form at the same time. If you go down the Heart Sutra, right, it says, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. That's a famous quote from the Heart Sutra. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. So if you're experiencing being in the form state, then you're meditating on the emptiness state. And at the end of the Heart Sutra, right, it says no, emptiness is form, form is emptiness. No death, no end of death. No death, no end of death. Because that form that you're in is empty, and therefore death is an illusion. No death, therefore no end of death. If there's no death, then there need not be an end to death. Do you see? No death, no nose, no eyes, no tongue. That's what it says. No eyes, no tongue. And then at the very end of the Heart Sutra, it says, gone, gone, gone. What does that mean? It means you're leaving the conceptual reality and experiencing the truth, which is non-conceptual. Gone, gone, gone. No lips, no tongue, you know, no death, no end of death. That's all conceptual, isn't it? You know, they're all words, they're concepts that mean things, right? But at the very end of the Heart Sutra, it says, when you let go of concepts. You let go of the whole thing. You become the emptiness instead of the form. You're in the form of the form now, so become the emptiness, right? Become the emptiness. Let yourself experience that. That's called death, right? And then you're free to enjoy the rest of your life in peace. Relax and enjoy the ride, because nothing can happen. When you experience your true nature, you're invincible. Nothing can happen to you. So you can relax. You can relax. You can afford to relax, because all the things you were afraid of are all mirages. All the things you were afraid of aren't real. Death isn't real. Nothing's going to happen to you. Nothing ever did happen to you. You weren't born and you're going to die. You're not going to die. That is what this is all about. Having the experience, right, of being what you actually are, so that you can relax and rest in peace. Now, not when the body dies, now. That's what's available. Whatever happens, happens. But if you're fortunate enough when you're practicing meditation to have that experience, that you leave the limitations, enjoy it. That's the truth. Nothing is going to happen to you. That's the thing that people get afraid of and they stop. You know, I was reading about this the other day, that the reason so few people actually experience the fulfillment of the possibility is because when it comes right down to letting go, and trusting that you'll still exist after you let go of the body, most people stop. Most people stop. Well, because they're afraid. They're afraid they're going to let go and then they're going to disappear and the whole thing didn't work. Nothing can happen to you. That's the teaching. Nothing can happen to you. If nothing can happen to you, your fears are unrealistic. They're unrealistic, and you need to practice, experiencing whatever fear is there, letting go of it, so you can get yourself connected to the truth, so that your life can be a life of well-being instead of a life of intrepidation. The experiences that are common, everyday, normal experiences to somebody who's awake are miraculous. They're miraculous because they see everything as a miracle. Everything is a miracle. Their existence itself is a miracle. You don't know what you are. You don't know what awareness is. So can you enjoy the experience of experiencing awareness with the miracle experience, not knowing that you don't know what this is, you don't know what you are, but yet you're here? That's pretty cool, right? But that's an experience that most people don't have, because they're so highly conditioned that that kind of an experience is meaningless to people. If you talk to a highly conditioned person like that, they'll say, oh, you need medication, man. Didn't go anywhere. It can't go anywhere. Right? All that and that's a common thing, by the way, that people say, that I was experiencing a state of well-being and then it just stopped and I was in another state of upset or worry or depression or anxiety or whatever the case may be. The only thing that happened when that happened is your attention moved to the thought activity. That's all that happens, is your attention, because the awareness that is your true nature never moves. Never moves. It's always there, never moves, never changes. Totally dependable, totally stable, right? So what happens for people is they begin to tune into, they begin to experience the natural state. They begin to experience the way it is without thought. And that feels good, right? But they're not yet practiced enough with it for it to have stability. So as soon as the right thought comes, your attention goes into the thought, and then that thought takes another thought, and then you start to get into thoughts about, did I do something wrong? What was the mistake that I made? How do I correct that? None of which makes any difference, has nothing to do with it. It's just a matter of maintaining attention. So the more you practice, and that's why I've been harping on the informal aspect of meditation. The formal aspect of meditation is practicing meditation, practicing experiencing the practice of meditation, practicing opening the gap a little bit further each time you practice meditation, getting a better sense of your true nature through the practice of formal meditation. But at some point, that practice has to extend itself into your everyday, ordinary life. And you've got to start practicing experiencing yourself, resting as that awareness that is never not here, experiencing yourself, resting as that awareness for brief moments at a time, as often as possible. And if you do this practice every single day, as often as you can, and continually increase the amount of times that you remember to rest as awareness for a brief moment, right? Eventually, down the road, it'll become so obvious, when you go to rest as awareness, it'll become so obvious that it's no longer necessary to do it. That you now are experiencing yourself as awareness all the time, whether it's empty or full, whether it's the awareness that is not a personality or the awareness that is a personality, right? Because when you get further along in this practice, it becomes evident that the personality is nothing but the awareness that got conditioned to be something that is not anywhere, or does not resemble its true nature at all. That's all the personality is. It's the awareness in form. Personality is the awareness in form. What form did it take? It took the form of your conditioning. It took the form that it took when you were a child living with your parents in your home, in this society. All that information that got put in is called conditioning. That's the form your consciousness took. That's the form the awareness took, right? So it was just a matter of happenstance. It was just a matter, or it seemed to be a matter of happenstance. Ultimately, that's another subject. But that's what the conditioning is. And so the practice of meditation is realizing that you have a choice now. You can either be the way you got thrown, like a puck gets thrown. You can either be the way you got conditioned, and the way you got conditioned will invariably involve a lot of confusion, a lot of suffering. Why? Because it's the same disease that got passed down through your parents to you. So you're just inheriting another version of the insanity. So now you have a choice. You can either be that, or you can begin practicing the experience of the unformed version, right? The awareness itself, which is always happy and free. And eventually, if you stay in the practice and you walk this path long enough, right? The way you relate to life is that the situations that are occurring are opportunities for you to experience well-being. That's all they are. Opportunities for you to experience well-being, because you're not buying into the crazy game anymore. You're watching the crazy game, but you're not being crazy. And because you're not being crazy, no matter what the circumstances are, you can enjoy yourself. You can enjoy yourself, because this isn't real anyway. It's all consciousness. This whole thing has been invented by conditioning. It's all been created by conditioning. There's nothing real about it at all. And if you're awake, right, you can relax and enjoy the circus. We can get along. Because if we know who each others are, if we understand that we are all the same, exactly the same, and we all have the same needs, and we all have the same wants, and we're all experiencing a human life, right? If we could get that shit together and understand that and start to relate to each other that way, this would be heaven on earth. Kingdom of heaven on earth. You know, the kingdom of heaven was never said to be elsewhere. This is it.
It's here.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is it.
I think too.
Yeah, and so when you wake up, you get to experience the kingdom of heaven on earth, and you're free. And everybody you meet is you.
Yeah.
They just don't know it.
And we're not going to tell them.
Or you don't have to tell them. You can just... And it wouldn't matter if you did tell them. They wouldn't believe you. No, they'd probably think you ate some acid.
Awareness is a state of being that is available to everyone. It's not my awareness or your awareness. It just is.
Yeah,
Always has been, always will be.
yeah. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
You know, we are all the same, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can do whatever you want to try and make it seem as if we're different, and it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. It's just an appearance. It's just an appearance. That's what true love is. True love is not romance. Romance is about sex. You know, who said it? I think it was one of the Dzogchen teachers that she said, in the unenlightened form, a human being is only about getting food and getting laid. When you experience yourself, you're experiencing me. When you experience yourself, you're experiencing everybody that ever lived, because there is no time. See, this is a personality question, really. Yeah, your personality wants to know, oh, can I hang out with other personalities that are dead?
Yeah.
Can I converse with my dead relatives and all that jazz, right? Yeah. And by the way, you can, right? Of course you can. You can. Why shouldn't you be able to talk to yourself?
Oh, maybe I was crazy. But I have had that experience.
Yeah. And all I'm saying is that you're talking to yourself. They were you even when they were alive, and they're you when they're dead, right? So you can create in your mind the idea that there's a separate entity that you can converse with, and you can do that, and it's real. It's real. But it's a simple matter. It's not complicated at all. We turn that stuff into, a magical, mystical stuff that people go to see people and seances and all that horse shit. It's just not necessary. We all have all the power. I hesitate to say this, but it's true. I don't care. The reality of it is, if you wake up, you're experiencing God. You're experiencing God, because all there is consciousness, and consciousness is God, and you are consciousness. So I don't know why that's such a hard thing for a lot of people to deal with, I guess it comes from the separations that people experience when they think there's something that they're not. But the truth isn't that complicated. The truth is relatively simple, and when you wake up, you start seeing it that way. You start seeing everything is simple. It's not hard at all. There are no other people. You're in relationship with yourself at all times. That's the only possibility. Confused? Confusion guards the gates of the truth, so don't worry about it.